The only ones who gods care about is themselves.
So this is my vow.
All gods will die.
I just want to say that was very, very impressive what you did back there.
He's just my first bad guy.
You never forget your first.
You are not like the other gods that kill. Because I have something worth fighting for.
Aloha! It's Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And last night, Thursday night, opening night, July 7th, 2022, I went ahead and I saw the new Marvel MCU movie, Thor Love and Thunder. And well, without further ado, remember our rating scale, shock a thumbs up. It's good to see it, I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down, it's junk, I don't recommend it. And for Thor Love and Thunder, bringing back Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, and Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, and introducing Christian Bale as Gore, the God Butcher. And, well, overall, it is a shock a thumbs up. But I would say a weak shock a thumbs up. Let me just say, I was expecting really big things from this movie. This is the latest MCU movie since Doctor Strange. Eternals so far has been the only Marvel movie that I have actually given a shock a thumbs down to. And to tell you the truth, I wrestled with Thor Love and Thunder if I wanted to give it a shock a thumbs down. But I've decided to give it a weak shock a thumbs up just because there are some dramatic, powerful points in it. You know, the overall story is good. Christian Bale really delivers on Gore the God Butcher, and his rationale for his character, his motivation is pretty sound. Right up, we have a cold open to Thor Love and Thunder, showing Christian Bale and his daughter on a planet whose climate has drastically turned. They seem to be the only survivors on this planet of a now desert world, praying to their God for help, for intervention, and finally just for his daughter to survive. And unfortunately she dies, she succumbs to the elements. And as Christian Bale slips almost off this mortal coil of this planet, he hears this voice and follows this voice to these dark whispers, to this oasis where he finds his deity, his God, and asks him for help, asks him, it's like, we have been faithful to you, my daughter has died, you know, take me to the promised land so I can see my daughter again, or you know, whatever it is that, you know, was foretold of their devotion to this God, the promises made of paradise in the afterworld, or greater things to come, and the God just laughs at him. And he says, I am here to celebrate not, you know, the fulfillment of my promises to you as a faithful servant and devotee, I am celebrating though he who has fell who could have slain me. And he points to a dead body in the clearing. And it is this sword, the sword that this person had used, whispers to him, to Christian Bale's character Gore. And in his desperation, as the god says, you know, he's going to kill him for being blasphemous after Christian Bale curses him for forsaking him and those who were loyal and worshiping him, this god. He finds strength to grab the sword and slay this god, and is imbued with some type of supernatural force. Very much like Thor's hammer, this sword gives him the ability of great strength and stamina and endurance. Lots of different powers. Apparently he can summon shadow monsters, etc., travel through shadows, through the shadow realm. And, you know, the ability to slay gods. We're not really told too much more of the backstory. We don't really see any backstory for the sword. That would have been nice in this. But what we do see, well, what we are told comes from Thor later, after it is determined that Gore has decided to go on a killing spree of all these gods. Thus he is Gore the God Butcher. And ultimately he wishes to kill all gods because he knows that there is no point in worshiping them, that they are just liars and in it for their own amusement. Cut later to Thor himself, fooling around with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Very much fooling around. I have to say that the tone of this movie, whereas we have this cold open with Christian Bale, a very sad and then distraught Christian Bale, that's bringing the darkness of his grief, of the loss of his people, of his daughter, and being forsaken by his God, and finding that everything that he had believed in being lies. Basically his crisis of faith has turned him against all gods, and he is seeking revenge against them, not only his own gods, but all gods. And you see him go across the universe, basically killing all these gods, or at least you hear about it via the Guardians of the Galaxy bringing in Thor, who are on this planet, whose people, whose deity has been killed, and they seek the Guardians' help in getting their temple back from marauders who have taken it over after their deities have fallen to Gore the God Butcher. Thus you have a very silly scenario with the Guardians of the Galaxy, some of which you had seen from the trailers. And let me just say, Taika Waititi directed this, just like he did Thor Ragnarok. But I feel in Thor Ragnarok, he did a more balanced job of, the comedy and the grief, the drama. In here, it's very, very erratic. You get crazy slapstick comedy moments, along with the next scene, Gore being menacing, brooding, and evil. And I know that maybe Taika Waititi was thinking, it's like, well, I didn't want to just focus all on the doom and gloom of this, or else this movie would have been far too heavy. But in doing what he has done, throwing in moments of comedy here and there, not just moments, but big chunks, basically, Thor has moved from being a dramatic character from what we had seen maybe in Thor Ragnarok, and definitely Infinity War and Endgame into being basically a joke and a clown. And even the Guardians of the Galaxy are tired of him and basically take their leave from him within 10 minutes. The Guardians of the Galaxy are in this only as cameos, basically, for about 5 to 10 minutes in that opening scene, getting this temple back to these people, where Thor basically handles most of the heavy lifting against the Marauders. Taika Waititi was supposed to direct the next Guardians of the Galaxy back when Disney had fired James Gunn. And after Thor Ragnarok, we thought, oh, well, maybe he would have done probably an excellent job, right? No, he wouldn't have. If what he would have done with Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 is anything like what we've seen here in Thor Love and Thunder, then I am certainly glad that he has not done so and is not given or will be given the chance to direct Guardians of the Galaxy. And I certainly hope, I hate to say it, that Taika Waititi does not return for a 4th Thor movie. I'm sorry, this is the 4th Thor movie. I guess a 5th Thor movie. And I like Taika Waititi. I enjoy his TV shows. Our Flag Means Death, hilarious. What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show is hilarious. The movie was hilarious. I liked Jojo Rabbit immensely. There's a good shift of comedy and balance and dread during World War II, Nazi Germany, and Jew persecution in that. So I just don't understand how he fell so far in Thor Love and Thunder. Again, a weak Shaka thumbs up, just because Taika Waititi does do several things correctly. We see Valkyrie on her winged Pegasus steed, straight from the comics. We get Sif back for, again, another cameo. We find that her arm has been cut off. Now in the comics, after Thor had lost Mjolnir and gotten an axe as his primary weapon, he had lost his arm. It was cut off. So in this one, it is Sif who has her arm cut off. But unfortunately, we don't see Sif get her arm cut off. She says she lost it battling Gore, trying to defend another god on another planet. It would have been nice to have seen her in action, to have seen this take place. At least some of it. It would have been nice to see the Guardians of the Galaxy actually do something. But no, they don't. All of which weaken this show immensely. We get Natalie Portman back. Just very much as you saw in the trailer, Thor surprised on New Asgard on Earth to see her as Thor, the mighty Thor, Lady Thor. And essentially we find out that she has had stage 4 cancer. She heard the pieces of Mjolnir call to her, and when she went to New Asgard, they reassembled and granted her the power of Thor, which holds off the cancer from killing her while she uses the hammer. But afterwards, she returns to human in a much weaker state. And now this is also, again, heavy stuff. She's dying, choosing to be a god and have these superpowers to prolong her life and also do some good. It is eventually her and Thor that team up to stop Gore, as one cannot do so alone. Even with the help of Valkyrie, Gore seems too powerful. Unfortunately, this felt very much like a MCU Disney Plus television show to me, Thor Love and Thunder. even down to the fact that we get children. Gore kidnaps children, and we see children basically being threatened so that Gore might bend Thor to his will and give him the secrets to what he seeks, which is a way to find eternity. And now eternity is one of the gods, one of the greater gods in the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the comics. Basically, you know, perhaps the most powerful and controls everything throughout the universe. We've heard him mentioned several times before in various MCU movies, but this is the first time that we see him as Gore makes his way with a reluctant Thor's help, Chris Hemsworth, to get him to basically ask a boon of eternity. And what he wants to ask him is to kill all the gods. But if Thor, you know, but this brings up several questions though. If during Infinity War and Endgame, if Thor knew of an entity like eternity around, why does he not seek him out, or tell the Avengers to seek him out to undo the Thanos snap, instead of there's no hope until Scott Lang comes around and says, oh, we can time travel back and get the stones from, you know, from the past. You know, why didn't they just go to eternity and wish for, you know, the snap to be undone, or that it never happened? So a lot of plot threads lost in this. Where you see in the trailer, they go to what I thought was Olympus. Turns out to be a city called Omnipotence, a city of gods. And you see a diverse range of gods throughout multiple cultures. Japanese, you know, some Chinese, some Indian, Mexican, in fact, Quetzalcoatl, I believe. Along with the Olympians, you get mention of Hercules, and of course you see Zeus in the trailer interacting with Thor, and the plan is to use Thor, you know, Thor wants to use Zeus's thunderbolt as a means to kill Gore, because even Stormbreaker is not strong enough apparently, or even combined with the hammer of Mjolnir by Jane Foster to stop Gore. So, you know, so they seek this ultimate weapon to stop him, and unfortunately, not even that really works. You know, so I don't know. I just felt disappointed with this movie. There are some great action scenes in the middle of the second act. There is a fight scene between Valkyrie, Jane Foster, and Chris Hemsworth's Thor against Christian Bale's Gore on what seems to be the moon, all in black and white, which is very, very exciting and very visually stimulating. Absolutely wonderful. You can see part of that where Gore is pointing at Thor and Thor says, you know, basically, come at me, you know. You know, and yeah, it's filmed wonderfully. So that's why I didn't give it a Shaka thumbs down, but still a weak Shaka thumbs up, just because there is so much inconsistency between the comedy and the grief of this. It certainly lacked the gravitas, the weight of an Infinity War, of Endgame, or even Thor Ragnarok, when he loses Loki, when he loses his family. Even with some, okay, spoilers from this point on, spoilers, that even with the death of Jane Foster, due to, you know, her cancer, isn't enough to rectify the stupidity of the comedy that is portrayed here by Thor. It's like, it's like he went back to, Iron Man calling him Point Break. That kind of a stupid airhead Thor, basically. Which, we had seen him progress beyond that in Thor Ragnarok. And to see him redundantly go back to that simpleton just really throws you out of this movie and what you know and loved about Thor Ragnarok. So yes, again, a weak shock a thumbs up, but still a shock a thumbs up. Christian Bale delivers. Valkyrie delivers. I think they could have done without Jane Foster and bringing in Lady Thor. And the only reason they did that is the same reason with the children. One, they wanted more of a female demographic who aren't just looking at Chris Hemsworth's muscles. So I don't know why they wanted her. I guess, to female empowerment. They're really pushing for that. And the inclusion of these kids, that are kidnapped just makes it feel like a MCU television show. It's like Kenobi and Princess Leia all over again. Like from, Ben Kenobi, that show. It really irked me. And it just seems to be panhandling and force feeding you the upcoming Young Avengers. We see that Heimdall, Idris Elba's character, had a son, and he uses some of Heimdall's powers in this, of his super sight. It just felt a little forced into, yes, these will be the Young Avengers someday. And it's like, And even at the end of the movie, there are two credit scenes, one mid-credit scene, one end-credit scene, and neither of them pop or have any serious weight. We see what looks like Roy Kent, the guy from Ted Lasso. That's who it looked like to me, playing Hercules. And speaking to Zeus, Zeus says, "Hercules, my son, I want you to get revenge on Thor, for stealing my thunderbolt, etc. And, make him pay." And he goes, "Yes, Father, I will." So this introduces, basically this movie and to Phase 5 introduced a lot of gods. It says that, yes, there are multiple gods. Ra is mentioned by name. You don't see him. So the Egyptian gods, whatever gods you can think of are here in the MCU now and capable of being seen as superheroes, I guess. And we'll get Hercules eventually, who in the comics did become an Avenger at one point. And so we'll also probably get him in a fight with Thor in maybe Thor 5. I don't know. Or in the next Avenger movie. We'll see Hercules at some point in the future. And he may be a villain or villainess until he turns good in the next movie. The other one after that is just... Gosh, what is the other one after that? That's the major one. Oh, now I can't remember. Oh, and then the final end credit scene is Jane Foster. Her spirit, after she dies, she is now in Valhalla, which makes no sense to me. I mean, yes, she died in battle, or near the end of the battle, or after the battle, I don't know, which would seem to, excuse her from Valhalla, because early on Thor says you have to die in the battle, not like after the battle, as he says to Sif, Chris Hemsworth. But so she dies. We find out that Idris Elba's character, Heimdall, greets her at the gates of Valhalla and says, "You are here in Valhalla, welcome, thank you for your sacrifice." And she's like, "Yay!" Does that mean she'll return eventually as the mighty Thor or Jane Foster on Earth? I don't know. Probably not. I hope not. I didn't really care for Lady Thor. And I don't care much for Natalie Portman in the MCU. But also, this, you know, what does that tell you, though? I mean, her faith was in science. Jane Foster's faith was in science. Wasn't in gods or anything like that. When she had cancer, we see her seeking treatment, trying to figure it out via science. When that fails her, or fails to cure her, she turns to magic and thus Mjolnir to prolong her life, becoming the Lady Thor. But I mean, for her to end up in Valhalla where people are drinking and feasting must be really almost like hell to Jane, a character like Jane Foster, who wants to, you know, who's used to lectures and teaching. She's an astrophysicist, etc., who gave multiple lectures, scientific inquiries, and all that stuff, to now be reduced to just sitting around, eating and drinking with other warriors, talking about great battles. It's like, you know, she'd rather be talking about physics or something like that. That's terrible for her, I figure. That doesn't make any sense why she would be in Valhalla. But I guess the overall theme of Thor Love and Thunder is faith and getting one's faith, I guess losing one's faith. You know, Jane Foster loses her faith in science and turns to Asgardian magic, thus getting the hammer and turning into Thor to try to cure her cancer, which it doesn't. Gore worshiping his deities, trying to save his daughter, but, you know, his prayers fall on deaf ears, and as such he loses his faith and condemns all gods to death, seeking his revenge. You know, this is heavy stuff, and for Taika Waititi to do this, and then I know he was trying to lighten the mood, but throw in all these gags and pratfall jokes and just fall short to me when this was a serious topic that needed its full attention focused on the darkness that Christian Bale was trying to bring. So again, a weak Shaka thumbs up. There are some good fight scenes. It's great seeing Valkyrie. You know, if it was any worse, I would have gave it a Shaka thumbs down. But again, a weak Shaka thumbs up for Thor Love and Thunder. I wouldn't recommend seeing it in 3D or IMAX standard if you really want to see it. And if not, then just wait till streaming on Disney Plus in about 45 days to 60 days. All right. Mahalo and aloha.